Alright, hey, what's up everyone? I decided to do a commentary on the Speedpaint because I kind of did a commentary with my previous Speedpaint with my friends, and it was really fun to kind of explain my process and everything, so here I am. So with this piece I decided to go for a lineless look because I gotta get out of my comfort zone. I normally do a lot of line work, and yeah, it's you're never gonna improve if you don't get out of your comfort zone. So this was really hard for me to try and not do any line work. So first things first, what I did was I had this free sketch done on my little sketchbook, and I was trying to imitate it as best as I could on digital. And I decided I needed to get as much detail as possible on the sketch so that I didn't have too many problems going forward without having any line work, you know. Right here I'm just positioning everything. The devil sides were pretty hard, honestly. But then I realized I had this toy scythe that I could actually look at the perspective from that. Alright, so here I was doing the background and I realized that the colder colors sort of didn't work, so I wanted to go for a more menacing look. So what I was trying to do with the pose was kind of like everything in the Jevil fight. It's kind of like, oh, everything is a game to him, you know? So I wanted to get that kind of mischievous look with the pose, which I think I managed to do pretty well. The thing that really bothered me was the tail. It gave me a lot of problems, mostly because of the lighting. Right here I'm mostly procrastinating, kind of trying to figure out in my head how I was gonna do the whole lineless thing, because I'm not really used to it. I've never really tried a lot of lineless works before. I've tried a couple and they were just really bad. That was like 2 years ago though, so I haven't really tried lineless since. So yeah, here I'm kind of trying to do a mini sort of line work with the base colors, and honestly it turned out pretty well in the end. It helped me organize my thoughts a bit more, trying to figure out what I was gonna do. I had a lot of creative liberty with the outfit mostly, and yeah, I'm gonna let it play for a bit before chiming in again. Alright, here, normally I'd have everything pre-copied and pre-done on a separate kind of file, but then I realized I needed the colors for the devil sides, and I didn't have anything, so I just said, well, I'll just go on Google and type it in. I also had another challenge in this piece. I tried to do it with the least amount of layers possible. It worked out kind of well. I ended up doing around 30, 40-ish layers on this. Normally I do like 100. So here I went in with kind of like my little fluffy brush and did some really soft shadows, kind of getting a feel for what everything is going to be like, where the shadows are going to be, where the light is coming from. I was really hesitant because I decided to do all of the shading on a single layer, which in all honesty it wasn't maybe the best idea, but it was a challenge. Like I said before, this was the part that really got to me. Like the tail, I just had no idea how to do the lighting on it. I kind of went with whatever I could, especially that little loop at the bottom there. It was hard, to say the least. As you can see, I tried out different brushes, I tried out everything to make it look better, and I just sort of gave up in the end. I mean, it turned out pretty decent. So here I'm starting to get into kind of the darker shadows, because when the light is coming from below like that, and it's kind of I'm trying to make it really intense, it's gonna make really intense shadows. And I kind of have this thing where I'm really hesitant and scared to do a lot of intense shadows, so I did an extra layer on top of my shadow layer to try and sort of test the waters with the more intense shadows without actually like screwing everything over. Here I did a couple of things with the lighting. I mean, when you have a darker base color, it's really hard to get the shadows, so what you have to do is kind of create the shadows using the more intense lights, right? I tended to zoom out a lot just to see how the lighting works on the overall piece. My main problem here was trying to make the two sides of the outfit look like different colors, because honestly it turned out looking a bit too similar for my liking, but it's you can still tell that they're kind of different colors in the end. Now this for me was the most fun part. I mean, you have the face, which is the most expressive part of the character, obviously. So I had a lot of fun playing with the lighting here. It was like in my previous Speedpaint, I really liked the way I did Jevil's face with the lighting, and it was super menacing. And so I kind of tried to recreate that here with my little fluffy brush. I kind of wanted the eyes to have a little bit of a glow and emanate their own light, so I did have to go in there with a bit of yellow just to accentuate that a little bit. I mean, you can't really notice it, but it really does make a difference. And then I came in here and I started working on the teeth, which I really didn't know how the lighting would work on the teeth, but I kind of sort of just improvised, and it didn't turn out that bad. I think it turned out fairly decent. Now the frills, this was trial and error mostly. I had no idea how the lighting would work on frills. I mean, I didn't have toy frills lying around so that I could do the same thing with the side. I had to switch actually back to my sketch layer and turn that on so that I can figure out where the frills were gonna come from, like how to make it look decent. I think I think it turned out well in the end. You can tell that they're frills. And of course, the gloves, which were also really... It was an interesting sort of endeavor to try and get that lighting in with the shadows and everything, and it was really interesting to get out of my comfort zone, because normally I would just shade in the fingers and that's it. So I really had to pay attention to the lighting. Painting in the shoes was a bit interesting, because last time I did Jevil, I actually went with the more saturated colors, but for this one I tried to go for a little bit of a desaturated look. I mean, it ended up being a bit more saturated than I would like. They kind of do pop out over Jevil's normal cold colors. In the end, I think I just went with it. It didn't turn out looking as bad as I thought it would. So after I finished shading in Jevil, I was really conflicted on how I would shade the Devil Scythe. Like, how would I keep the pattern in while also using the minimal amount of layers, because sometimes it would make it look a little bit weird having way too many layers, you know, with different stuff. For the blade, I was considering using a different brush, but I decided against it. I actually used the blur effect here. I normally don't like using the blur that much. It's it takes away from the piece in general, but I do make some exceptions as long as I go in there with the brush later and kind of fix and give it a more rough texture. In these were kind of hard to figure out how the lighting was gonna work on them. I mostly just went with my gut on this one. I tried to make them have a little bit more of a metallic look by adding in a little gradient there. Honestly, the Devil Scythes at the bottom I was kind of unsatisfied with because of the whole lighting thing on the bell at the end of the scythe, and then it doesn't have any like projected shadows on the scythe from the bell. But I didn't really realize that at the time. I only realized that later after looking at it for a while. Here was an interesting bit. I looked at the piece and I said that, well, something is missing here. And I didn't want to add anything more to the background, because adding in more Devil Scythes would just make it way too crowded. Incredibly crowded. So I decided to add like these little particles of light. It doesn't really make any sense, but it actually did add that sort of feeling of there's something there instead of it just being empty the whole time. So here I just went in with my normal brush, and I kind of did what the line work normally does. It just gives it a more sharper, look overall. So I went in there, I rounded out all of the fluffy edges, and yeah, that's basically my whole process. It was really fun, really interesting to try this. I might try to do more lineless works in the future just to get better at it and figure out some of the little kinks that I didn't really get to perfect in this one. But for being my first lineless work in like 2 years, it's not that bad. I like this little illustration, so hope you liked it.